looking at what was planned for last year, which was the first time I went, I looked through it, managing the madhouse, all about dads, how to work as a team. Those were some of the things where Meg, we were laughing about it this morning. She says, when I asked if you wanted to go last year, it was meant as a joke. And you responded, yeah, I think that will be a really good thing to do. So,
welcome to the Homeschool Journal, a show that unpacks the joys and journeys of the classical homeschool family. Here's your host, Carrie McGraw.
Hi, friends, and welcome back to the Homeschool Journal. We're going to do something a little bit different today. My bet is that most of our listeners here or viewers on YouTube are moms listening and watching the Homeschool Journal. Well, today, moms, as you listen or watch, when you're done, I want you to hand this episode over to your husbands because we are going to talk to two longtime and experienced homeschool dads. And we're going to talk to them about Sodalitas, our summer conference here in Louisville, Kentucky, because I want you all to have a very unique perspective on Sodalitas and the fact that, we really want to reach out to the family, to the couple, for this to be an experience for both husband and wife. And we know that's not always possible, but we're doing everything we can to make sure that it is and that we speak to the needs of both moms and dads. So today here with me are Jeremiah Tutwiler and John Mcdougall. John, welcome. How are you this morning?
I am doing great. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Happy to have you here. And Jeremiah, you're here too. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Really appreciate it.
Well, let me tell everybody a little bit about the both of you first so that they get a little bit of background. When I say that you're an experienced homeschool dad, they understand why. And Jeremiah, I'll start with you. So Jeremiah, everybody, is a second generation homeschool dad of 7. He runs something called 831 Creative that services customers throughout the United States. And he loves working on mechanical projects with his 4 sons, but he also claims to have read the entire series of, Lord of the Rings, Narnia, and Little House with your daughters. Am I right? That's what you had mentioned,
correct.
Right? That is awesome. So we can tell that Jeremiah is a very engaged homeschool dad, and he plays that support role to his wife, Jen. Now, John's another engaged homeschool dad, first generation homeschool dad of 9. And he and his wife, Megan, are at 27 years of blessed marriage. And I relayed to John a little bit earlier that my husband and I are coming upon that this summer, 27. John works at Collins Aerospace in electronic design and development, and he plays that support role to his wife, Megan, as well. And when he gets to jump in, it's often in math and science subjects in the high school years. So folks, our 2 dads have been around the block. And not only have they been around the homeschool block, but they've been around the Sodalitas block. And that's why they're here today. So like I said, it's not often we get to hear from dads about attending a homeschool conference, particularly our Sodalitas. So I'm going to go to Jeremiah first. But I want to hear, Jeremiah, first a little bit about, how did your family get into homeschooling? Let's give that bigger background picture.
Sure. So let me actually go back a little bit further than that, because in the intro you mentioned that I'm a second generation homeschooler. Mm-hmm. So I was homeschooled from 5th grade through high school. So this is through the 80s and 90s. And it was the worst experience you could imagine.
Oh, no.
It was, I'll call it the dark ages of homeschooling, only because everybody was worried about truancy officers, and you had to have all of your records exactly straight. You were wearing uniforms. I mean, it was very regimented because at any point in time, you were going to have to make sure that you could prove to the state what was going on. So it was, the educational part of it was fine, but it was this ingrained fear. Don't go outside before 2:30 when the kids are coming back from school, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So when we started having our own kids and everything, Jen also was homeschooled as well. And so she always had the idea of homeschooling, but because of my experience, I'm like, no, let's not do that at all. But when we moved from Virginia back to my home state of Indiana, the school system was terrible, absolutely terrible. And so whether it was public school, private school, there really weren't any options. So homeschooling was an absolute, this is what we have to do. And we went through some different curriculums. Jen tried to put together her own curriculum. And honestly, it wasn't until Jen discovered Memoria Press and classical education that suddenly it was like doors open. It was like, oh, this is what education is supposed to be about. And it could be amazing, and it can be a great experience. And you can not only have the enrichment for your kids, but also for you as an adult, because guess what? You probably missed a bunch of that yourself.
Well, I love hearing from parents just in general, how they got into homeschooling, first of all, and then how they found Memoria Press. And because it's always such a heartwarming story of this revelation, this opening of the mind into, oh my goodness, what you just said. This is what schooling is supposed to be. And so, John, let's hear your story. How did your family come into homeschooling?
So I'll go back in the history a little bit as well. I was full-time public school all the way through. Meg was more in private school and actually went to finishing school in Switzerland. So neither one of us were homeschooled when we started. When the kids were little, we were living in New York. And the more we looked at what school options that we had, the more we realized that they weren't really pushing for the same things that we wanted to give to our kids. And similar to Jeremiah, we tried this, we tried that, we made our own, we tried some of the other organizations. Meg teaches Latin to about 15 kids a year outside of our own kids. And I think that's really how we came into more of the Memoria Press side, was really understanding, here's the Latin is one of the big tenets of it. And the more we looked at the rest of what was being taught, the more we went, yeah, that's the direction we want to go. And from there, we've moved into it and believe that that's the best way for us to move forward.
Wonderful. Now, let's get into what I said we were coming here to do, which is Sodalitas, which is dads at a conference. And yes, I'm being totally focused and biased on our conference because I will tell you, and Jeremiah knows this very well. I wanted to share with everybody. We have a volunteer steering committee of homeschool parents that every year work to plan and just get ready, along with the staff here at Memoria Press, obviously, to feed our homeschoolers. And so we took a leap last year and we said, we really want to try to focus more on dads. And so we had a few more sessions that were specifically for dads. We introduced a kind of a lineup of parent enrichment, and we're going to move forward with that this year as well. Really trying to, like I said before, bring moms and dads together. So let's hear from your all's perspective. How did we do? You guys were there last year. How did we do?
Oh gosh, how did you do? I think you guys actually did very well. It was the first time that I had actually been to Sodalitas. Although Jen had gone, for like 5 or 6 years, I think, prior. So I really didn't know what to expect. But it was, I think, eye-opening to me to see other dads there, to also have that sense of like, okay, I'm not the only one, but then also to hear from some of those other dads talking about what they're doing at different capacities to support their wives, to support their children, to make sure that their homeschool can flourish. And everybody comes from a different background, and realizing that, hey, I can learn from this guy. I hadn't thought about that. That's a great idea, and being able to bring that home to my own house was really encouraging, because it's so easy for us to feel like we are kind of by ourselves on an island, and to realize that, oh, there's hope, and there are other people that get the struggle.
Probably about 3 or 4 years ago was the first time that Meg went to one, and I remember looking at what all the classes or the sessions were, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't see anything. Looking at what was planned for last year, which was the first time I went, I looked through it, managing the madhouse, all about dads, how to work as a team. Those were some of the things where Meg, we were laughing about it this morning. She says, when I asked if you wanted to go last year, it was meant as a joke.
Oh.
And you responded, yeah, I think that will be a really good thing to do. So, going there, I didn't know what my expectations were, but I'll comment on the same thing Jeremiah did at the All About Dads. It was refreshing, because it was really hearing other people who have, the father is the primary teacher. Okay, that's not me. All the way to, I make sure the monkeys stay fed on a regular basis. That, the father isn't the primary teacher, really doesn't do a lot of it. I'm going, oh, thank God I'm not the only one who feels like they're not. But you got to see how the support was needed by, your wives to make sure that this whole circus keeps running from day to day. And a lot of the sessions, it was just comforting to know that there's other people that are struggling with the same things or in the same position and direction. And, Jeremiah and I got a chance to talk after the All About Dad session. And it was just nice to talk to other people who know the struggle. So overall, I think it was probably the best 2 days that I've had at any homeschool conference that I've ever gone to.
Oh, thank you. I will hang that one on the wall of our marketing office. The best 2 days of any conference you've been to. That means a lot. But you talk about identifying with others there that, like Jeremiah said, learning it, you're not an island. And it's nice to be reminded. It's not that we don't get reminded of that, every once in a while, but it's really nice to be reminded again that you're not an island, that there are others going through the same thing. There are other dads in the same circumstances. There are other moms in the same circumstances. And we do have some dads out there that are the primary homeschoolers. And one of them did speak last year. In fact, one of them is on our steering committee for this year. We really wanted to bring in that dad's perspective. So again, this coming 2022, we've got some more, things on dads. We've got another couples panel. One of our dads is going to give a really special talk on why dads matter. And I think I'll turn us to that for just a moment, dads. Can you give us your perspective on why dads are so important in the home? I know I'm putting you on the spot here. I know, but I want to just lean on that one for a second. John, why don't we start with you? Do you have any thoughts on, you have that specific role, but it's an important role. So why does dad matter?
I think the biggest thing is, these are your children. You can't just turn them over to your wife and say, okay, go take care of all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. First of all, mom's got a lot of other things to do during the day. Now you're throwing teaching on top of it, which is a huge effort when you really sit down and look at it. If the father's not there, not supportive, and not willing to be able to jump in, it could be anything from this is a subject that mom's not real good at to you need to help with any of the discipline that may need to come and, setting the kids up for success. Mm-hmm. If they don't see that teamwork from their parents, they're kids. They're not going to listen to their parents all the time. So you need to have that solid front. And, when mom's having a rough day, dad's got to be able to step in. The kids need to understand that, yes, this is important. It's not something that mom's pushing. It's dad's got to be there to support it as well. And, really help explain, this is what the expectations are. This is why we're doing it. And this is why we think having you guys not go to a traditional school, this is important. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that partnership going, and it doesn't matter who's teaching, it works either way.
That's right. It's
got to be a united front. And, I jokingly say, I'm the financial, emotional, and IT support for the school. That's an important part of being able to do all of this. There's times that Meg just asks me, can you do this for me? So that we can, she can focus on getting the lessons ready. Mm-hmm. I'll get the background work. And, if we're doing an artist, we'll print out some portraits and paintings that they've done so the kids have the visuals. Mm-hmm. So you got to be a team. You've got to make sure that everybody sees that you're a team and that it's moving forward as appropriate.
So, when you say that, I think back to, when I was homeschooling and, my husband, I guess we considered him the headmaster, but I was the principal and teacher. So, yes, he was the IT and the financial and the emotional support for everything that we, accomplished in home. And I could not have gotten it done in that manner without him, and vice versa. Like you said, John, and that there are dads out there that are the primary teachers, and the moms are playing the role of that financial and emotional support and making sure that everything continues, as possible for what they need in for their children in their home. So, Jeremiah, what about you? Your take on why dads are so important?
So, one of the things for me is that I run my own business. And I have an advantage because I work from home. Mm-hmm. But not only is Jen my wife, but she's also my business partner. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I look at our homeschooling as being the same. It's kind of like running a business with a partner, not with employees. Mm-hmm. So it's an important thing because you have to see the overall understanding of things. I'm not involved in the day-to-day teaching necessarily, but I've been there for when we've had particular children who are struggling. We had one, our 13-year-old was going through a rough patch where he was refusing to do any work with Jen, and he would basically waste 4 hours per day just, causing problems. So I said, great. You and I are getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we are going to sit down next to my desk. We're going to do all of your schoolwork before I have to start my work. And what he was dragging out for 4 hours, the kid had done in like an hour and a half. But he really didn't like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. So after about 2 weeks, he's like, can I go back with mom? Yeah, sure. And guess what? We haven't had problems with him ever since.
Jeremiah, that's beautiful.
So that's kind of the thing where sometimes it's that male figure, that fatherly encouragement, let's call it, that a kid needs to realize, oh gosh, I've got it good with mom. She's good. And so it kind of helps to reset the appropriate balance, especially for kids that are going through the tween and teen years of pushing boundaries.
That's right. And, God had this perfect plan for the family, and I will boldly proclaim that plan. And I know that in real life, that plan doesn't always work out. And so my hat's off to those who have to homeschool on their own. Whether it's that they have a spouse that isn't supportive or they don't have a spouse. But in your homes, you're able to utilize that which God put forth, which is mom and dad working as, like what John said, a united front in accomplishing this godly task of homeschooling your children. So back to conferences, back to Sodalitas. I appreciate that little aside, gentlemen, and sharing your perspective on why dads are so important. But you all mentioned some specific sessions last year that you really enjoyed. Can you give me an overall feeling of what you really got out of the Sodalitas conference last year? As you left, what was it like? And what was in your memory?
Honestly, one of the biggest things that I have that is stuck in my memory from last year's conference was the absolute beaming face of my wife. Honestly, like, I got a lot out of it as a dad, but as a husband, I think I got even more out of it.
Oh,
I think more so because with Jen and I both being there. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there for the entire conference because we brought our whole family down. So I was only able to pop in for certain sessions. But I was there for the final sessions of the last day. And it was incredible just to feel like, I don't know, we were walking through the campus of Highlands, headed to one of the sessions. And Jen looked at me and she's like, I feel like we're back in college, just walking across campus, going to school with our book bags. So that was a big one because I could see why it meant so much to her. And that actually caused it to mean a lot more to me. But really, I think just that realization of I can keep going. Even if I'm struggling with something that's tough, I can keep going. Mm-hmm. And there is help and hope.
Mm-hmm. And what Jeremiah says is very true. Yes, you get a book bag when you come to Sodalitas, right, Jeremiah? So you are literally walking across campus with a book bag. John, what about you?
I will say that was the first time in probably 15 years that Meg and I got away by ourselves. So Jeremiah, if you get to do that this year, it's awesome. Mm-hmm. I think it was just the opportunity to really meet other people from across the country and see, here's the good things that are going on. Here's the struggles. Jeremiah talked about he's got his own business out of the house. The last 2 years, I've been working from home, so I've been able to see the day-to-day stuff a lot more.
As have many, right?
Yeah, and I actually found my notebook from my book bag from last year, and I pulled up the schedules. Just which ones did I really like, and I'm having trouble picking which was the best one. How we work as a team or managing the madhouse. I'm living in the madhouse, so that was. But the best advantage that I saw was there were about 30 different breakout sessions, and between Meg and myself, we got to half of them.
Right.
We never went to the same session at any point because we wanted to get as much of the experience as we could. Mm-hmm. She went to more of the tactical, how do you do this in the classroom stuff, and I focused more on how do we get this set up? How do we make sure we've got the right environment? How do you work with your spouse to do this as you go forward? Mm-hmm. And just being able to, like I said, meeting the other people and listening to the stories that we got out of those sessions, it was a sense of comfort. And I'll say, I said earlier, my wife was surprised that I wanted to go. She was more surprised when I said, I want to go back. And it was just because we got that time to really just sit, and we spent 3 days down there focused, planning, and getting excited about, hey, we get to do it again this year. Where some years it was a little more of a struggle to go, yay, we get to do it again.
Well, and that's what conferences always did for me. They were a recharge. It was like a reboot. You just walk away just knowing, we can do this again. We can do this again. So let's talk about practically speaking, because, like both of you all have alluded to how you made it work last year. John, you and your wife just came, the two of you finally got away. I can relate to that. But Jeremiah brought the whole gang. So John, tell us about how do you manage to finally get away? You've got 9 kids. Now, some of them are older, but how did you manage that?
We finally got to the point that, we can trust the older kids. We've got 5 of the 9 are still in the house. And we got to that comfort level where we can go away for a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have family in town less than a mile away. So if there was a real emergency, we were able to do that. But I think it was more, we realized that we're not getting as much out of this as we need to, you know, as a family or even as a couple, you know, and how we're planning this, how we're getting it all organized. You know, Meg would get overwhelmed almost every year. And I think part of it was because I didn't see and understand how challenging it was. Well, I had a year at home and I saw, you know, I need to step up my game a little bit to make sure that we're doing this right. And we just made the conscious decision that, yeah, I need to do this. We need to figure out what are we missing, you know, and getting together with the group and going to these sessions, you really got a good idea of here's where our strengths and our weaknesses are and how can we cover up the weaknesses a little bit and enhance the strengths that we already have in place. And it was just a nice time to get away. The weather was perfect that week.
It was.
And it was just comforting to see the struggles and the challenges and the successes that other people had, and to understand how to use those and tailor them to what our personal situation was.
Wonderful. And Jeremiah, how did you all do? Now, I kind of know how you did it last year. I do, but I want you to tell everybody else.
Sure. So Jen's gone to Sodalitas, I think, 5 or 6 years now. And I've always been encouraging her, like, go. There have been years where she's like, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm like, I know you need this, you must go. But we needed to bring everybody this last year. And so we packed everyone up, including the dog and the rabbit, into our RV. And we came down and camped for the whole week. And our oldest at the time was 18. So it was one of those, like, could leave the kids for a few hours at a time. That's why I wasn't able to be at the whole conference.
Right.
But it worked out very, very well. I mean, it was great for the kids. It was a mini vacation for them, and kind of everybody came home recharged.
That's awesome. I know. When Jen told me you were doing that last year, I absolutely loved it, and I'm a little jealous you have an RV. I'm a little jealous, I have to say.
No, I was just going to say, with a family that big, it's the only practical way to be able to do any traveling, because hotel rooms would be astronomical. Expensive.
Absolutely. So. Very, very wise. But this year you have something unique that you shared. It's just you and Jen, maybe, right?
This is correct. This last year, we actually moved out of the city into the country. So we are more comfortable with where our house is, that we can actually leave our kids. And yes, I've got family in town if anything were to go wrong. But the idea of the two of us being able to go and experience this together and, compare notes instead of her talking at me about everything, that we can actually hold a conversation because we both have ideas on how things are across the entire conference. It's going to be super exciting. And it's an anniversary year for you, isn't it? Yes, it is. It'll be 20 years. 20 years. Yay. That is wonderful. Okay. So to finish this out and to give that big picture, or maybe to answer the question, so what's the big deal anyway? With a dad going to a summer conference, or particularly Sodalitas. And I do want to mention, we are carrying forward a couples panel. We think that we should hear from each other, every year, that couples have a lot to share about how things function in their home and how they get it all done. And I think that there's a lot to take away from that. We have, the Why Dads Matter talks. So we're going to hear some expanded thoughts on what you all shared with us already. We still have a parent enrichment track just to help parents understand more of the Memoria Press, history and mission. We actually have a specific track on the Memoria Press mission and getting to know more about specifically our history and our educational philosophy. So we're really excited about the 2022 Sodalitas Summer Conference. But
gentlemen, can you give us a final word of encouragement? And you may be speaking to wives right now who, like I said earlier, need to pass this podcast on to their husbands. But give us that final word of encouragement from your families as to the value of spending that time together at a summer conference.
It is something that you cannot replicate with any other conference, any other getaway. I think that it's one of those things where you probably are going to feel like, oh, why am I doing this? Why am I taking the time off of work? Why am I taking vacation time? Whatever it might be. Why am I having to deal with babysitters and hotel rooms and expenses? Because everything's more expensive now.
That's all a big deal. That's all a very big deal.
Exactly. But the value of understanding better classical education, understanding who we are as humans better, understanding who we are as spouses, as teachers, as guardians of the knowledge for our children is something that you can't put a price on. So whatever it takes, be there, be a part of it, because you won't want to miss it ever again.
Thank you, Jeremiah. John, what about that final word of encouragement from you as to, the best, why should they consider it? Why, if it can be done? I totally acknowledge that there are seasons in life when it can't be. And that's why we have the virtual, option. And we hope that people will join us there if they need to. But what would be that final word of encouragement from your family, John?
I'm going to start with, we are probably going to take the virtual option this year because we've got family things that are taking precedence that need to be addressed. But I would say, it is time to just sit and focus. This is homeschooling, when you have 7 kids or 9 kids, it's not a choice, it's a lifestyle at that point. You really need to make sure that everybody understands what the challenges are, what the commitments are, and what the struggles are along the way. There are many different options out there. Finding the right thing, finding other people who are going through the same issues. I wasn't the best homeschooling father when we first started this. It's something that I've had to learn over time. And going last year, I was more excited and more able to recognize what was my role, what was my mission. One of the things is, if you're struggling, put together a vision statement for what you're trying to do. It's the little things like that you pick up that, it still resonates. Jeremiah talked about working with his 13-year-old at 5 a.m. I heard that last year. I used that this year. So those are the things. Those are the things that you really start to. It was a side conversation that we had, and those are the memories that come out of it, and the friendships that you make. I know Meg, some of the other mothers that have come, she's kept in touch with over the years outside of the conference and looks forward to seeing and meeting those people again. I'm kind of upset that we're not going to be able to go this year just because I want to keep building those friendships and relationships and sharing of stories.
Well, we're not going anywhere, John, and you got plenty more kids, right?
I've got, the youngest is 8, so I still have a good 10 years of this, and I know I'm going to be back because it was probably the best 2 days, I said this earlier, the best 2 days of my homeschooling parenthood, where, we got out of the class, the sessions, and we're back in the hotel room going, oh, here's what I heard today, and we got to try this. And, it was back and forth. Jeremiah made that comment. It's not, I'm listening to what she learned. It's more, here's what we learned, and here's how we can use this as a team and as partners as we go forward in this life choice that we've made.
And that's exactly what I wanted to end on. That is so beautiful that we want to treat the homeschool as the family, as a team, as that united front, as you said. And so it's our hope to support both mom and Dad at Sodalitas and in everything that we do here at Memoria Press, particularly with what I get to do with our families as I speak to them, sometimes just one-on-one on a telephone, that we really cherish that homeschool family and know that it is a lifestyle that our families have chosen. John and Jeremiah, thank you so much for your wisdom, for opening your hearts and your homes to us today, for sharing, maybe first with our moms, but if they'll take the charge that I have given them to go and hand this podcast to their husbands, then we will spread the message even further. Gentlemen, thank you again.
Thanks so much, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
You all have a great day. Thanks for joining us today. If you liked our episode, click the thumbs up button below or leave a comment to let us know what you thought. It always helps us to know if we've helped you. You can also click the bell icon and subscribe to the show so that you can stay in touch. Then I'd love for you to share it with a friend. We have many resources here on this channel, so I hope you'll check those out too. I'm Carrie McGraw. Thanks for listening today, and I'll see you next time.